we're going to get started with the Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself special masterclass workshop. And uh, this information was sparked after I listened to this book. For many of you who know me, I listen to a lot of books or read a lot of books. I actually read more than I listen to, but I like to listen to personal development audiobooks when I'm listening to a book. And this was one of the latest ones, actually one of the first ones I finished this year already. And it's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself: How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One by R.J.O. Dispenza. And I learned many years ago from the various coaches that I have, one in particular, that it is so important that when we learn something for ourselves, and it resonates with us, that we should teach it. And this is exactly what I try to do. So this is kind of where we're at today. So if you have not read or listened to this book, after we're done here, if the information inspires you, I would highly encourage you to read or listen to this book. I think it's an absolute essential read, but you will get kind of the nitty gritty of the book today. We're going to do a few activities today that will help hone in some of this information, but this is groundbreaking work for any of you who are science nerds in here, like I am. I love to know the science behind stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And Dr. Joe Dispenza also talks about and studies a lot about quantum physics. So we'll touch into that a little bit. And this book is really about how to explore your habitual thoughts and emotions that have currently shaped your reality and how you can shift that. January is always a time for us to look at things and go, okay, it's a brand new year. Let's start a new year. I personally believe that springtime is a better time to start a new year. But, as soon as, the number switches, it's kind of a nice way to start thinking about it. And, you know, we look around at our current reality and sometimes we think, this is not exactly where I want to be in the moment. I'm happy to be where I am, but is it where I'd like to see myself in a year? And if that answer is no, that's what we're going to work on. We're going to work on, okay, something in us needs to shift in order for us to change our external world. And that's what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about a lot in his work, is that, our external world reflects our inner world. So if something in our external world is not what we want to see or in alignment with what we would like to have, then it's something in our internal world that needs to change. It's a lot. Okay. So we are going to go through a lot of information. So strap in and breathe because you will all be okay. Now, at any time, if you do have any questions, you know, pop your virtual hand up or stop me and just say, hey, what's up? Because there is a lot, and I will give us an opportunity to stop and share and ask questions as well. Okay. So I'm going to continue to move on as long as we're all good. Okay, so the first challenge is, living on autopilot. So how many of you realize at the end of the day that you have been operating on autopilot? Like what happens is you can't remember your drive home from work. You all of a sudden go, oh, what? How did I get there? So show of hands, how many of us have, been on autopilot a bit? In our last masterclass call, we talked a little bit about that, didn't we, Patty and Joella? We talked a little bit about how fast time is going by. And we talked a little bit about why that is. And it's because we continue to make 95% of our daily actions are habitual. We do the same things every day. We take the same route to work every day. I have the same routine in the morning. It's like Groundhog Day every single morning, right? I do things in the exact same order, basically in the exact same timeline. It works for me. But what the science is showing, and a lot of the people that study this kind of work, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, says that our time goes by so fast because we're not changing anything up. Our brain doesn't notice different days. Every day just becomes like Groundhog Day. We end up controlled by our body, our environment, our past, and we repeat the same things over and over and over again. And sometimes this creates an addiction. Okay, so just kind of go back to some of these points here is that, we wake up, we repeat the same thoughts, we feel the same emotions, we take the same actions, we get the same results. All those habitual things happen, nothing changes. Years go by, months go by, weeks go by, and everything's the same. Old memories and sometimes trauma patterns literally run our nervous system without our awareness, right? If any of us, and I'm sure all of us have had some sort of trauma at some point in our lives, it doesn't have to be big, it can be very small, and that also runs our world. And when we feel fear, shame, guilt, or unworthiness always on repeat, our body becomes chemically addicted to those states. This is why it's so hard to snap out of some of these emotional states, is because we get addicted to those states. And one of my most amazing favorite coaches that I worked with years ago, said, um, there's a reason why we do things. There's a reason why you are continuing on these particular habits and feelings and emotions. It's because there's some sort of payoff. There's always a payoff to something. So if you're constantly feeling depressed, if you're constantly in a rut, what's the payoff there? Are you getting attention from someone? Is there some sort of feeling in your body that's connecting you maybe to a past feeling? And again, these things aren't good or bad. They're just what they are, right? So we perform a version of ourselves that isn't really who we are. It's just our brains are kind of designed in this survival mode so that once that neural pathway is established, that's where we stay on repeat because it's just easier. It's harder to shift. It's harder to make changes. And I was going to work the other day, my same route, and I thought, well, why don't I take a different route? And the first thing that came up was like, well, that'll just take longer. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? Right? It's just easier. You automatically go to that, oh, I just want to do the easy thing. And I thought, okay, next time I'm going to go a little earlier and go the roundabout way and see what happens. Right? So it's very, very interesting that when we start to recognize the challenge and things that we can do to stop living in autopilot. Now, a quote from here is, this isn't our fault. It isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility to wake up to it. It is your responsibility to recognize this is happening if you want things to change. So as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, your thoughts create your reality. There's a thinking, feeling loop. So let's say I have a thought. I'm not, as a creative, I'm an author, as many of you guys know. Let's say I go, I'm not creative enough. I'm not good enough to run my own business. Well, I have thought that for years. And that thought triggers much anxiety, right? The test, whenever you think you're not good enough, your chest might tighten. You might feel a little flutter in the belly. Maybe your shoulders are hunched over. We talked about this in my yoga class today. And, the lady came up after I said a particular quote and she said, it's interesting, my pastor said sort of a similar thing that you did, is that if you're not feeling good about yourself, just look up. And as soon as you open up to that heart space, you automatically feel better. It's almost impossible not to. So a thought triggers emotions. When you have a thought like, I'm not good enough, your brain searches for evidence to support it. And that ends up getting stuck into that subconscious mind. As soon as you tell yourself something, it's like ordering something to the universe. And so the universe says, okay, she's just thought this. Now I need to prove that it's true. Okay, so our thoughts, as you'll realize today, are extremely, extremely powerful. Emotions create a body sensation. So that thought of unworthiness feels like tightness, heaviness, tension. Then the body sensation reinforces that thought while the nervous system goes, oh, that's proof that I'm not good enough. Then the loop repeats. The cycle runs so fast, so automatically you believe it is who you are rather than the habit you've practiced. So the neurons fire, they wire together, and it just loops and loops and loops. We just have to remember that the loop isn't truth, it's just a pattern, and patterns can be changed like that. So we have a lady in our masterclass group, Sarah, that you aren't going to sadly meet tonight. And she was able to, she's a great example of someone who was just able to stop that loop. As soon as she made the decision to make some changes, she made the changes. And a year later, she is a completely different person. And that's pretty much what we're talking about today, is that, I like this quote. It says, stressed brains are not creative brains. When you think about when your brain gets stressed and you get like overwhelmed, can you be in your best creative space? Like, that answer is a hard no. And it's really important that we learn about this. So this is where we're going to get into a little bit of science. So I'm just going to read a quote here. It says, science is finally catching up to what the mystics and yogis have known for thousands of years. Your consciousness shapes reality. Your inner world creates your outer world. This isn't wishful thinking. This is biology. And a lot of these concepts, again, is why I've been created the Create and Manifest Your Vision series, is because, again, I've been studying this stuff for a long time. I follow leaders like Dr. Dispenza, and the science is there. So, first of all, the neuroplasticity in your brain is not fixed, right? Every single time you think a new thought, a new emotion, or take a new action, you're literally creating new neural pathways. Every time we learn something new, it's like there's a construction crew in our brain that's building a new road. It's building a new pathway. So as soon as you learn something new, all of a sudden it's easy. But if you're learning something new while you're learning it, it's not that easy because the brain is literally having to change and shift, just like when we train our bodies in the gym. It's not easy to build that strength, but when we do, it starts to get a little easier. So we have to do something different to change again. So epigenetics, of course, different from our genetics. Epigenetics is our environment, or in this case, our thoughts. So our thoughts don't change our DNA, but they change how our genes are expressed. So a gene for anxiety might be turned on during chronic stress, or it might be turned off by meditation and peace. So you have control over that genetic expression by your environment or your actions. Now, how many of you have learned a little bit or studied any sort of quantum physics? No? Okay. Very cool stuff. And don't, I'm saying you have to. This is what's cool about this is that there's a whole other world out there that we as human beings just don't tap into on a regular basis. And we can tap into what's called, and if you start to follow Dr. Dispenza, he talks a lot about the quantum field or quantum energy. And basically, it's like for so many terms, like I usually use the term the universe. It's that energy that's outside of us that's just waiting for us to tap into and become aligned with it. And again, one of my coaches actually said it in this way is that the universe is just waiting for you to place your order. So whatever you think, whatever you ask for, whatever you do, it doesn't ask you, are you sure you want to place that order? It just says, oh, okay, order placed. There you go. So whatever you put out there, whatever you think, whatever you do, think of it as a wish. That's why it's so incredibly important when it comes to that quantum field that we are very careful with the wishes that we're sending out there, the orders that we're sending out there. So, like Dr. Dispenza said, that the quantum level particles don't exist in a fixed state. They exist in all possible states until observed. So, when you observe or focus on or think about something or feel something, a desired outcome, you collapse quantum possibilities into that reality. So, those are his words. So, essentially, it doesn't come to reality. It's all possibilities are out there in the quantum field, according to the quantum science of quantum physics. All possibilities are out there, and they will come to you when you ask for it, when you decide to feel it, when you decide to step into that. So the observer effect, basically, in this particular, in this science of quantum physics, is what you give your attention to and energy to, you create. I'm sure we've heard that term before, right? Many people like Tony Robbins and all those big kind of, personal development gurus have said that. And your focus literally shapes your reality at the molecular and quantum level. So many of you have done yoga nidra with me. Yoga nidra is very similar to hypnotherapy. And those two both get you to tap into the subconscious mind. And if you can think about it, the subconscious mind is like that quantum field, is that you have to tap into it and sift out the feelings and the thoughts of the things that you really want in order to connect to that energy. It's fascinating stuff. So your consciousness shapes reality. Your inner world creates your outer world. Again, this quote, this isn't wishful thinking. This is science and biology. So very, very fascinating. So any questions so far? You're like, what did she just say? So if it does seem like it's going over your head a little bit, I completely understand, because when I first heard it, I was like, what? But like I said, I've probably been studying this stuff for actually close to 20 years now, and it's fascinating, but it always takes a conscious effort to stay tapped into this framework. because it's very easy as a human being to go to what's easy, to go to what we're used to step back into the past or to step back into what we know. So this is why it's so great to constantly be reminding ourselves about these things. So we're just going to do a simplified version of Dr. Joe Dispenza's process in the activities today. So if you at the end, I'll give you his website again, but it's drjoedispenza.com. And he does have some meditations on there. And I've done a couple meditations of his. They're different, but they're very powerful. And you'll know what I mean when I say they're different when you do it, or if you decide to do it. But the real magic happens when you practice this framework daily through meditation and embodiment. So, the activities that we're going to do today are going to give you those sort of take home activities to do even on your own when you start implementing this stuff into your daily life. Okay, so step 1 to 3, which we're going to talk about in a minute, are about getting out of your own way, breaking the habit. And step 4 is about creating what you want. Okay, both are necessary, of course. Most people try to create without first releasing what doesn't work. It's kind of like trying to stuff your closet full of new clothes before you've gotten rid of the old ones, right? We always have to clear the space first before we can add the new. Okay. All right, so the step 1 of Dr. Joe Dispenza's framework, the 4-step meditative process, is to relax your brain waves into a meditative state. This is why over the past few years, I have stepped into teaching more yin yoga than any other class. And the reason for that is literally this, is that we as human beings in our modern world do not focus enough on the meditative state. We live in a go, 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 rush, 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 work harder, hustle culture. And as women, and again, I'm learning a lot more about stepping into the feminine power right now. And that hustle culture is not good for our feminine side, which is our yin side. So, what I decided to do a few years ago is step into that yin and share that. And I had a young woman in my class this morning, and I said, "How did you do it? How did you do? How'd you like it?" Because she'd never done it before. And she was like, "Oh man, I sure had a hard time. Like, I don't know if I liked it." And I said, "Oh, what was going on?" "I had a hard time focusing." And I'm like, "That is 100% normal." That's why a lot of people don't like yin yoga. That is why a lot of people don't do meditation, because the monkey mind or the brain is always on a little hamster wheel. It's not about shutting it off. It's just about moving into a little bit more of a relaxed state. So basically, from what's called the beta waves, which is your alert thinking, to what's more alpha or theta, into the relaxed or subconscious. So this is where doing something like yin yoga, especially how I do it, because I always bring a meditative process into my yin yoga when I have the opportunity to teach traditional yin. Your regular, kind of more westernized yin probably won't do that for you, as I draw in yoga nidra concepts in as well. So some of you who have done yoga nidra with me know how deep we get into that subconscious mind, right, Patty? Yeah, that yoga nidra is pretty powerful. So that is where real change happens. The opportunity to stop, relax the physical body, relax and focus the mind. That is where we get to tap into the subconscious mind, right? Get away from the conscious. So that's step number 1. So sadly, if we're not taking the time to just relax into that state, we really can't move forward. So if you kind of think about this as a step 1, step 2, it's got to be in consecutive steps. Now, does it mean you've got to stop, drop, and be meditating for an hour every single day? No. 2 to 3 minutes to start is perfect, right? Then you move to 5, then you move to 10, then you move forward. Okay, step 2, identify and acknowledge your old emotional habits. We all have them. So start to think right now, maybe even jot down in your notes that some of the thoughts and emotions and behaviors that you notice that you do. So for this was an example. I notice I always play small when I'm in a group. I notice I feel unworthy when someone gives me a compliment. How many women, when somebody says, "Oh, I love your dress," "Oh, this old thing," right? "Oh, you got your hair done." "Oh, I guess it's okay." Right? Something like that is when do we just reflect that instead of saying, "Thank you very much. I appreciate that compliment." Next one is, I notice I self-sabotage when I'm close to success. I've done that numerous times, right? So that's one thing that goes, "Oh, I don't know if I want to get there. I better back away. I don't know if I want to, I'm quite, I don't know if I want to do that." So just kind of as we're going through this stuff, just keep that in the back of your mind. Again, this will come up again in our activity, but this is a really powerful thing. Whenever something gets hard, how do you react? Whenever something becomes really exciting, how do you react? When somebody gives you a compliment, how do you react? Okay, so step three, release old behaviors through awareness. First and foremost, we have to be aware of a pattern in order to change it. And as soon as we're aware of a pattern, you have the power to interrupt it. Patty, you might be able to help me here with the name. I think it was Bob Newhart who did a video, and it was just stop it. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but Patty and I have had numerous chuckles around this. And it was like, you start to think about something that might be negative or, going down the wrong path. All you have to do is say, stop it. And so remember when I said sending your thoughts and actions out into the universe is like placing an order. Well, as soon as it goes out there, and I catch myself doing this all the time, as soon as I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, stop it, stop, cancel. I cancel that order to the universe immediately. So the goal is that we're human beings. We're always going to have these thoughts, but can we recognize it and interrupt the pattern? And you say, stop it. Okay, what can I do? Okay, I can stop and breathe. Can I take the next step? Yes. People so much try to look for the big picture. I'm a big picture thinker. And if I can't get to the big picture right now, then I can't do it. But then I stop and say, okay, wait, what can I do? Okay, I can take step number one. All right, I can take step number two. So the goal is here to stop judging yourself for having the pattern and just observe and have more compassion. So observation without judgment creates space for change. And for those of you who do come to my yoga classes on a regular basis, you always know that's a big theme. So recognize where you are without judgment and have compassion. What is your body sensing without judgment and have compassion? As soon as you start to think, well, why can't I get into this pose? Stop, have compassion. Okay, so that's stopping the old behaviors. And number four, create new identity and habits. So we can only do this in that relaxed, open state. And we're going to do this activity today that when you kind of get into that relaxed state, then you can imagine yourself as the new you. So you feel the emotions of your desired future. That's how we tap into the quantum field. You rehearse the new habit in your mind until your nervous system believes it's real. So my undergraduate degree is in sports psychology. And of course, it's been so many years since I graduated. But I think the most powerful thing I learned from that and, studying some of this stuff is that I love hearing the examples of the studies of athletes where they do studies where the athletes just in their mind see themselves winning the championship. They in their mind go through the motions of what they're going to do and how they're going to get there and how they're going to accomplish it. And then when it comes to the day, so then the other group is the group that's actually on, like say, it's on the basketball court, and they're the ones that are actually training. Well, they've often shown in many of these studies, there's no difference between the two. Whether you've trained it in your and seen it in your mind, or whether you've done it physically, is very much the same. So I think it was Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, or it's the book I'm reading right now. He talked about that, where there was a study done on people just learning, like playing a piano piece in their mind or playing a piano piece, learning a piano piece physically. And they said it was a very minimal difference between the two. And to me, that's fascinating. So what does that tell us? That tells us that what we think about, how we allow our bodies to feel, we can create. We can change neural pathways in our brain by seeing it and feeling it and seeing ourselves do it in our mind. So it's very, very exciting. I don't know about you guys, but I get tingles when I think about that. And then I kind of stop and go, why aren't I doing this more often? Oh, right. Okay. So that's why it's important to do this stuff every single day or every once in a while. That's why when I read a book like this again, this isn't new material for me, but when I read it again, it's just a reminder of, oh yes, okay, now I need to teach this to other people. I need to remind myself and other people that this is possible. So let's move on to when you break the habit, what actually becomes possible. One of the themes in my yoga class this morning was about optimism and wonder, is staying curious about the what ifs. Think of how many times you've said to yourself, what if I fail? And then we flip it around and go, but what if I'm successful? right? The negative side. Well, what if this doesn't work out? Turn it around to, but what if it does? It's a completely different energy. So imagine waking up tomorrow and your first thought isn't worry or self-doubt. Somebody criticizes you and you don't spend 3 hours in your head thinking about it or thinking about, did I say the wrong thing? And you dwell on it. Just imagine feeling genuinely excited about your life and what you're creating instead of just going through the motions. Imagine knowing, not hoping, but knowing that you've created the life that you want and that becomes possible. So one of the things I'm working on right now, and this is, almost more of a silly thing, but I'm like, all right, Tony Robbins gave an example that two people came to his, big course or whatever. Has anybody ever seen Tony Robbins live? Yeah, he's pretty fun. It's very, very cool experience. So he said these two people came and their goal was to win the lottery. And he was like, look, like maybe don't set that goal because that's, let's be serious. That's probably not going to happen. And they were adamant. No, 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 we are going to do this. So apparently they implemented these steps and guess what? They won the lottery. Tony Robbins couldn't believe it. Like he was shocked. And so that's my new goal. I am manifesting the lottery. Whether or not happens, who knows? My boyfriend's like, you're going to win it and then something's going to happen and you're going to die or something. I'm like, yeah, probably. But I'm manifesting that not only for that, but I'm thinking about what is it that I can do. I am a big animal lover. I want to help animals. Something happened to a friend of mine today, and that's what really got me thinking about it again. And it was like, you know what? I want to help people. I want to help animals. And, is there an opportunity here? So rather than thinking I'm going to win the lottery, that's obviously not what I'm doing. But the goal is to tap into that quantum field and go, help me get there. I don't know the how, but help me get there so that I can do this. I can help animals. I can help people on a grander scale. So again, that's just kind of a simple little example, but people don't change for a logical reason. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to change because I need to, or this and that. But you change when you start to feel a pull towards something better, not a push, but a pull. You're driven towards your why. Now, Sarah, as a personal trainer, I'm sure you teach people your why has to be strong. Because if your why is not strong, you are not going to do it. You're not going to continue on when it gets hard, right? And that's, what we've learned a lot in this class. And again, Sarah, I'm sure you teach your clients that all the time, right? It can't be that push. It's got to be that pull, that reason why you're doing something. So your external environment has to no longer control your emotions or your outcomes. I'm reading a book called The Handbook for the Modern Stoic. If you like these kinds of books, it's a 52 kind of weekly thing. And it's along the same lines. It's about shifting the mindset and looking how, do you allow your external environment to control your emotions? If something happens in your external environment, do you have a nervous breakdown? Do you freak out? And I caught myself doing that today. Something happened and I went, how can that even happen? How can that be possible? And I freaked out. And then I went, okay, wait, why am I allowing this to control my emotions so much? And I had to stop myself and say, okay, just breathe. So keep that in mind when we come to do the activities, right? Who or what can trigger your emotions and what are the outcomes? Okay. So the goal now is to remove fear, shame, and guilt and transition that to gratitude, joy, and peace. So when we default to gratitude, joy, and peace, you just naturally start to gravitate towards those more empowered thoughts instead of disempowering ones. So I was driving to work the other day, and as you know, 16th Avenue is shut down, and I live in Boness, and so everybody's rerouting, and I totally forgot about that. Tuesday night, going to teach my class, all of a sudden, way more traffic. I rolled into my class at 1 minute left to spare. I'm always there 15 minutes early. And the whole time I kind of went, oh, and then I went, just breathe. You're going to get there when you get there. And then I'd freak out for a minute. Come on, how come this person isn't going faster? Just breathe. You're going to get there when you get there. And guess what? I got there on time because I believed that I would. Now, of course, I didn't have 15 minutes to spare. Everybody was happy to see me. We had an amazing class. It was all good. But now, what good would it have done if I would have had a massive panic attack, freaked right out, called the gym crying and screaming, saying, I'm never going to make it there? Chances are I probably wouldn't have made it there. I probably would have gotten an accident, right? And been even late. So That's when you want to catch yourself in those emotional kind of freakouts. It's not like you're never going to have them, but can you catch them? Okay. And switch it and just breathe. So you want to close the gap between who you are and who you're pretending to be, kind of coming back to a nice, authentic self. Stop performing and stop being. It's incredibly liberating, and it takes so much time and energy to maintain a false self. Now, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but Johnny Depp had a video the other day and he said, hate is such a wasteful emotion. He said, it takes way too much energy to care that much. I thought, well, isn't that funny? Kind of, I had to watch it again and again until I could kind of think about what he was saying. But he's like, don't care enough to hate someone else, right? It's too much of an energy output up out there. So you manifest your vision by feeling as if it is already real. Now, in that book, if you guys have an opportunity to read this book by Dr. Dispenza, he gives an amazing example that his daughter did. She wanted to go live and work in Paris for a summer. And she said, I want, can you help me do it? And he said, here's, I'm going to help you. You're going to start living and breathing and feeling like you've already had that experience. Every day, I want you to live your life as if you've already been to Paris, and imagine and embrace those emotions of excitement in your mind. And so she's like, okay. So she started working on it. And then she found this Paris job or thing, but she needed a certain amount of money. And she said, can you help me? And he said, well, here's what we're going to do. You're going to keep working on this and continue to feel the feelings and trust that the universe is going to send you, the situation. You don't need to know the how. You just need to really know the what. Okay, fine, fine. And she went and continued on. And then before you know it, there was an opportunity that one of her professors provided her, that there was like a work exchange program that she got to go. She not only didn't have to pay, but she got it all paid for in the exact places that she wanted to go. And she had the exact experience basically that she had in her mind. Now, that to me is crazy. But it works, right? When you start really seeing, okay, I'm going to see this in my mind. That's how every one of my books have been born. I've seen them in my mind before they have been published. So, think of, again, in these activities, start to think about some of these goals. So instead of begging the universe for what you want, which comes from a place of lack, we embody it as if we already have it. So really think about that, right? Please let me win the lottery isn't going to work. But starting to live like you already have. How would you be if you did? What would you do if you did? Can you start doing that now? It's one thing I learned from one of my coaches a long time ago. And he said, don't wait until you've lost the weight, till you've gotten the job, till you've gotten the relationship to be happy. He's like, be happy now. And then all those things will fall into place. And he was so right. He was so right. All right. Another quote: imagine feeling genuinely excited about your life and what you're creating instead of just going through the motions. Imagine knowing, not hoping, but knowing that you're creating the life that you want. That's what becomes possible. So very exciting. All right, let's get into some activities. Does anybody have any questions before we move on? Okay, I want you to get comfortable. Okay, so before we begin this activity, I want you just to get comfortable for a moment. Just lean back in your chair if you can. Place your feet on your floor. I just want you to close your eyes for a moment. From wherever you are, just close your eyes. I want you to think about a pattern that's been running your life. Maybe it's perfectionism. Maybe it's people pleasing. It might be self-doubt or imposter syndrome. It might be playing small or seeking validation. What's the habit that, if you released it, would actually free you? Now, the key here is don't overthink it. Your intuition already knows. So while you're in this state, keep your eyes closed. And I want you to silently ask yourself these questions, and I'll say them one by one and pause after each one. What is an old pattern or emotion that you are ready to release this year? I'll say that again. What is an old pattern or emotion you are ready to release this year? Next question. What thought or feeling loop keeps you stuck? What thought feeling loop keeps you stuck? And the last question, how does this habit show up in your body? How or even where does this habit show up in your body? As you just allow yourself to breathe and contemplating on these things, just naming these things gives you more power over it. The moment you name the pattern, you're no longer unconscious of it. You start to be conscious of these habits. You've brought it into awareness. And that's step 2 of the transformation process. So take a nice big breath in and just net a breath out. So why does this matter? Well, speaking out loud is powerful. The moment you say it to another human being, it becomes more real and you become accountable. Also, being witnessed creates safety and community. So that's what we're going to do right now. So for those of you who are willing or want to, I'm not going to make you, but if anybody would like to share what that old pattern or emotion that you're ready to release is. So now we're going to do a little bit of a short visualization together. Visualization literally rewires your brain. When you imagine something vividly, you see it, you feel it, you know it, your brain creates those neural pathways. So let's do that. Our nervous system will start to begin to recognize this as kind of the future is familiar. It will see it, it will feel it, and it will make it easier for your conscious mind to move into it. So close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose and a big sigh out your mouth. Let it all go. One more time. Breathe in and breathe out. Good. Now just breathe easy. Now in your mind, imagine it is December 2026. You've just had the most incredible year of your life. Imagine stepping into that version of you that you have become. In your mind, look around. Where are you? What do you see? Are you inside or outside? What colors are around you? Now notice what you're wearing. How does it feel on your body? Does it fit differently than what you're wearing now? Are you standing differently? Now notice how you feel, not think, feel. What emotion lives in your chest right now? Is it peace? Is it joy? Is it pride? Is it freedom? Whatever it is, let yourself fully feel it. Now look back at the year that has just passed. What did you accomplish? What obstacles did you overcome? What did you learn about yourself? What are you most proud of? And notice, how do people respond to you now? Do they see you differently? Do they treat you differently? How does it feel to be seen and appreciated for who you truly are? And in this moment, from this place of having already created it, of already being her, what's one thing you want to say to yourself? What's one thing you want to promise yourself? Now, when you're ready, take a deep breath in And as you exhale, and slowly open your eyes. Now, if you're willing and want to share, notice what came up for you. Think about any of the emotions, any of the images, any surprises. You do not have to share, you can keep it to yourself. But recognize that what you experience in your mind right in this moment is real. Your nervous system is getting a taste right there of your 2026 frequency. That's the energy to tap into this year. Would anybody like to share? Again, no pressure, you don't have to, but would you like if you'd like to share, please do.
I just saw myself at Christmas time, um, thinking about what happened to me a few weeks ago at Christmas and how it was totally shifted for next Christmas and how I was standing in my power. I was skinnier, I was more fit, and I had more confidence. And I wasn't sick with the flu like I was this year. So I sort of was thinking about all of the goals that I've already started to write down in my book. And I saw all of them through fruition, and it felt really good.
Awesome. So now the goal is to see that on a daily basis and tap into that frequency. Excellent. Joella, Sarah, anybody, either one of you like to share?
What I found interesting is I pictured myself in this exact same spot in the exact same place. Like, I'm, so, and honestly, like I was still just wearing a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt. Like nothing was different, but my environment was different. And just in terms of, you know, the knickknacks and stuff on my walls. And I think because I just had like going on my trip in end of November, beginning of December was just such a fabulous time. I've got, such great memories, and I want to, you know, do something with some of the photos and, the things that I came back with from that. And, you know, I envisioned kind of having those memories around me, but that also, and the feeling was just really, I didn't feel lazy. I was still sitting in the same spot watching TV, but I didn't feel lazy.
Because you saw some of the crafty things and some of the memories around you, some of the things that
Yeah,
you
and I think so. I
accomplished.
think it was like, you know, it's like I was doing something else in addition to just sitting. Like, so it was like the feeling of laziness was gone because I added something different and nothing specific, just.
Love that. It's almost as if I just pulled a card, Joella, and just kind of what I'm thinking here is that you're happy with your surroundings. You love your home. You're happy with
Mhm.
where you are, but now you're able to enjoy that and look around and see some of the amazing memories and things that you've been able to accomplish this year. So that's great. Thanks for sharing.
Mhm.
Sarah, would you like to share?
Sure. Mine actually was I was at home. It was bright and sunny, and I was actually peaceful in the house. I spent a lot of time uh, actively feeling like I should be doing other things while doing other things. Uh, and so just being slow and at peace in my home and my environment, which I love, and it's exactly what I want it to be. I've been getting much better at actively working towards this now, but just, yeah, being peaceful and content and, um, yeah,
I love
gentle
that.
with myself in my own home.
Yeah, I love that. That's powerful. Thanks for sharing. Wonderful. Good. So just remember, you can always go back to that visualization whenever you need to. It's a very easy visualization to do. So keep that visualization with you as you move throughout this year. All right, so let's move on to our next activity. So as we already talked about, that our words are incredibly powerful. The moment you speak something, you've crossed from private thought to public reality. You've committed. Your brain hears your voice saying it, which makes it more real. than just thinking it. So if you see these 3 statements on the screen here, I am going to invite you to complete these 3 statements, okay? I'm going to ask you to start by writing them down in your journal. And of course, if you're not writing today, that's okay. But think about these 3 statements for just a moment that are in relation to you. So the first one is, I am releasing the habit of being blank. Next one, I am stepping into the role of blank. And in 2026, I am creating blank. Now remember, none of these things need to be huge things. These might be very small things for you, but when you speak it into an existence, this activates that quantum entanglement. Again, Joe Dispenza's words. But when you speak something with conviction, you are literally creating neural pathways and sending your order to the universe and to help create your new reality. So what I'll do is I'm going to have each one of you share these 3 statements for yourself. And when you share, the rest of us are going to acknowledge you. Yes, I hear you. That is claimed. Okay. So who would like to go first? Who wants to claim their new identity declaration? I love it. All right, we got one more activity to do. Now, one thing I've learned again over my many years and many experiences, whether it's been coaching, whether it's been school, whether it's been listening to a coach, that we need to embody our future self. We need to step in to her. Thoughts alone are not enough. We've got to feel it, as we've already talked about it. Our nervous system is somatic. It lives in our body. So when we have an emotion, whether it is negative or positive, it lives in our body. So I'm going to use another example in yin yoga. When people come into a yin yoga class and we start digging into hip openers, I've had numerous women go, why am I crying? Why are all these emotions coming up? And it's because once we start opening and letting some of that go from our tissues, it's got to go somewhere. And I always say, don't hold it in. The best thing you can do at that point is let those tears fall and tell your body that it is safe because you're on your mat. So the earth is supporting you. It is okay to let it go. Okay. So that's one part of it. So when your body releases those neurochemicals, of course, when we step into our future self and it's exciting, we get that dopamine rush for possibility, oxytocin for the connection to what we see and feel. Cortisol decreases. I know a big reason why people hold on to cortisol is because of fear, and you can't step into that excitement. Your body starts to, when you step in, will literally recognize this new state, and you'll be ready when those things come to you. The universe will not send anything to us that we are not ready for. So we have to be ready. So if you are physically able to do so, I'm going to get you to stand up. Okay, so if you're able to do so, I'm going to stand up with you. So my head might get cut off though. We'll see how far back I can get here. So when I did my MBA, one of the things we learned, funny enough, was the power stance. And the power stance is hands on your hips. And it's funny, I stand like this a lot. Your feet are a little bit wider than hip distance apart or hip distance apart. We literally were taught this in a business school because they say that science has proven that when people stand like this, their chest is proud, their hands are on their hips. It's called the power stance for a reason. People feel more confident and more powerful. So I want you to stand with your feet about hip distance apart. Okay. Ground yourself and take a big breath. Now, again, you can have a soft gaze or close your eyes as long as you're not too wobbly. Now, imagine that you're literally your 2026 self right now. Visualize her being her. How does she stand? Right? Maybe she doesn't stand like this. So if you see her in your mind and she's standing somewhere else, as in another way, change it, right? If her spine is straight or her shoulders back and down, does she take up space or does she make herself small? And of course, we're stepping into that future self. So stand up tall. Stand the way your 2006 self stands. Now you're going to begin to move. What is her energy? Does she move slowly and deliberately? Or does she move with vitality and aliveness? Now, you might not be able to in your space move the way you see yourself moving, but I want you to move. Okay, I want you to sway back and forth. Maybe you release your arms. Maybe you just allow yourself to kind of let yourself go and start to embrace that feeling in your body. Now, as you're moving, as you're feeling what emotion lives in her body, where do you feel it? Is it in your heart space? Is it in your belly? Is it in your whole being? Breathe into that emotion. Don't force it though. Just let yourself feel what she feels. And as you stand here, breathing, embodying this frequency, what does she know to be true? What does she believe about herself? Remember, this is your December 2026 vision. What does she know about her power? I want you to stay here just for a little longer. I want you to just be. I want you to let your body memorize and absorb this frequency. Your body memorizes this frequency and begins to manifest it. Your nervous system starts to learn by this experience, not just thought. When you literally feel these emotions of your desired future in your body, your nervous system starts to recalibrate that and to draw it into the present state. Why is this powerful? Because most people never actually feel what they want to create. They think about it. Your body doesn't understand abstract. Your body feels sensations. Start to tap into that nervous system. This is how you reprogram yourself. Now, when you're ready, shake it out. Give yourself a nice little shake. Come back to the room and open your eyes, and you can sit back down. So that was step 4 of the transformation process. Literally creating new pathways and the new nervous system state through that embodied practice. So yes, there's time for stillness, and then there's time for that movement, right? So anytime you can't see that future self, anytime that's, kind of gone away from you, just stand up and move, right? Wiggle it out, stand up and move, somatically feel that in your body. So now let's go through the actions. Let's go through the commitments. You've got the visualization. You've made the declaration. Now what? Okay, these are the steps. Daily meditation. Even 5 to 10 minutes can rewire your brain. You do not have to become an expert. You do not have to sit there for an hour. You can use guided meditations, or you can do just a simple body scan. Close your eyes, scan your body. Where's your nervous system right now? Start to just tap into that theta brainwave state. That's where real change happens. Okay, so consistency matters more than duration. A 5-minute daily practice beats a 1-hour practice every month, right? Your brain needs repetition to create neural pathways. Okay, so again, if you've ever followed somebody like Tony Robbins, whenever you're in a Tony Robbins class or program, you're jumping up and down. Like you're like, woo, like you're having to move around, you're having to jump, because somatically you've got to get into that state. Okay, so again, whenever you start to feel like, oh, I'm feeling lazy, or those things come back around, I want you to stand up and start jumping around, start moving around, kind of what we just did in that last activity, and then sit down and get silent. Okay, sometimes we just have to move a little bit. Number 2, notice and interrupt old patterns before they run wild. Awareness is your first step. So when you catch yourself, like, again, kind of getting back to that old habit, oh, I had a long day, I'm just going to turn the TV on. That is when you have to become conscious. That is when you have to interrupt it. That's what builds the new pathways. Or I'm scared to follow this new opportunity. Wait a minute here. Stop. My December 2026 self would not be scared. Or she would be scared and do it anyway. Because you're not necessarily ever going to release fear. Fear is always going to be there. But to be scared and do it anyway, that's what makes the difference. And I look back on my life, and too often I've been scared and quit. And those are some of my biggest regrets, right? So now, as I've started doing this sort of teaching and coaching, it's like, no. You can be scared and you can have a pity party for a minute, but then you got to stop it and say, okay, am I scared because I don't want to do it? And I'm scared because I know I need to do it? Or is it something that's saying that's not for me? Because there is kind of a difference there too. Throughout your day, I want you to start now, starting tomorrow or even tonight, interrupt those old patterns. Catch yourself playing small or doubting yourself or people pleasing. Or in that moment, you have a choice. You can either keep going with that destructive pattern or you can interrupt it. Okay, take a deep breath, say stop, move, whatever you do. Okay, that's up to you. It's ever going to work for you. This is a big one. Next one, number 3, practice gratitude and presence every day. And I have to say, that's the one thing that having a regular yin yoga practice or yoga practice in general, I always feel grateful that I have the opportunity to teach yoga every day. And the reason for that is because it keeps me in that space of gratitude and presence. It forces me to stay there and connected to my breath. But gratitude is such a high vibrational emotion, and it literally rewires your brain towards abundance and possibility. And again, years ago, I learned this from a coach, and he just said, you cannot move forward until you're grateful with where you are right now. And at the time, I was in like the worst place of my life, like rock bottom. Business was lost, a boyfriend was gone, basically had to claim almost bankruptcy. Like it was a disaster. I was on the phone and I was like, why is this happening to me? This little pity party. And he's like, you might not know it now, but one day you're going to realize why it's happening to you. And this was quite a few years ago now. And I think I always look back to that and go, it had to happen. And I'm so grateful all of that happened. I'm so grateful because I would not be the person that I am today. So I'm always grateful for those, those brutal times in our life that we kind of think back to and we think, oh, why'd that happen to me? Well, there's a reason, and just be grateful. Presence keeps you out of regretting the past. Gratitude keeps you in the present. And it's such an important state to be in, is that gratitude and presence. Okay. It just completely shifts our whole being. Next one, number 4, live from the feeling of already having what you want. Okay. And then trusting from that space that the universe will bring you the how. So never wait until you achieved your goal to feel the emotion. Feel it now. So like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, this is what collapses that quantum possibility into your reality. We have to feel it now. And then, I see that I have a little typo there, but write things down in your workbook or your journal, writing things down, stating them out loud. One thing that I've started doing on my mat, I always do a meditation after I finish my yoga. But what I've started to do now is I like to cover my eyes. That's one thing I like to do, just the warmth of my eyes. And then I state my commitments out loud, not in my mind, but out loud. I commit to doing this. I am grateful for this. I am this. So state it out loud because it makes such a big difference. And and for me, I work a lot with my spirit guides, and I always say, okay, guides, listen up, because I'm about to state what I need your help with, or I'm about to state what I need you to lead me to. And again, you don't have to do that, but I do that just because I'm like, we have a crew. We have a universal crew around us. I 100% believe that. And we need to just tell them to wake up, and we have to ask them for help. Otherwise, they won't help. Okay. So whether or not you know who is around you, whether, it's God or creator or your spirit guides, whatever it is that you work with, just remember that they're there. So tell them to wake up and help you. Okay. And then write it down and commit. So in closing, you are the creator of your reality. You are not a victim of your circumstances, your thoughts, your feelings, your choices. You have so much more power than you've been taught to believe. And this is coming from someone who's gone and done this work. This is someone who's been in those pity parties and has been able to get myself out. So break the habit, create your vision, and manifest your 2026. So I just want to acknowledge everybody for being here today and what happened. You showed up, you're willing to look at the patterns that have been running your life. And I encourage you to continue to do so. You've made some of the declarations. This is who you're becoming, right? You're embodied your future while being here. And that takes courage. Working with one of my coaches years and years and years ago, again, probably close to 20 years ago, again, time goes by so fast. And an exercise that she had me do is when you get angry and you get frustrated, start smacking the couch. And I was like, okay, all right. And I first started doing it. And then before you know it, you're freaking out and all that anger and all that frustration is leaving you. And I would literally convulse while a lot of that negative energy was leaving my body. And again, it wasn't fun, but I always see it as that darkness, that shadow self that had to be released. And I think we're always shedding layers of ourselves every time we step in to manifest something new. Every time we commit or make a commitment, we're shedding, a piece of that shadow self. And I think it's okay to recognize, saying, hey, you know what, you were there for a reason when I needed you. Thank you so much for being there, but in gratitude, I'm going to move on now. Right, as we move away from things, I'm just say, I'm grateful for the job that I've had. I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, but I'm going to move on now, into a new thing. It does take willingness, and it does take making a decision, right? Especially if it's a big thing. Like Sarah, I'll use an example. If there's a big shift that's going to happen here, it takes courage, right? And it also takes a decision and trust. So Dr. Joe Dispenza says that 99% of evolution is in the thoughts we think and the emotions that we feel. So what you've done today, thinking different thoughts, feeling different emotions, embodying a different version of yourself, that's evolution, that's creation. And again, just a couple more points from Dr. Joe Dispenza's book. You are not the victim of your past. You are not stuck with the patterns you've been running. You have the power to think a new thought, to feel a new emotion, to become a new version of yourself. And that power is available to you right now. So as you go through your week, like I said, the next few days, I invite you just to remember, you're not trying to become something new. You're remembering something that was always true. You're just going back to your true self. You are remembering your power, your wholeness, and your creative capacity. So your thoughts lead to your feelings, and your feelings lead to your choices. So break the habit this year, manifest in your 2026. So let's close with an anchor. So the anchor that I love to do is just hands over the heart space. So I'm going to invite you just to close your hands over your heart space and close your eyes. And I just want to take 3 deep breaths together and allow these breaths just to center your energy and create that collective moment of commitment. And even though all of us might not see each other on a regular basis, we are there energetically supporting each other in these commitments. And of course, those of you who are in the monthly class will be able to tune in and check in on each other. So let's take a nice big inhale in through the nose. Nice big exhale through the mouth. Inhale again. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Feel free to stay there if you want to. Some key takeaways today. Feel free to open your eyes if you wish. But now you know your current reality is not fixed. Awareness is the first step. Your nervous system can be retrained. Feeling is more powerful than thinking. You have agency. Daily practice is non-negotiable. And community matters. So making sure that you're drawing the people in your community into your world. You do not have to share what you're trying to work on. Sometimes it's better to not, but just know that we are here to support you in any way that you need. All right, so I'm going to finish up with just some references and resources. So of course, you all know where to find me. I am here as your guide, as your support. I am your biggest fan, absolutely. So please stay tuned. Keep me updated on what your commitments are, how they're coming together, because it is so much easier to do that when we have support. So our Radiate Elite membership is the one where the masterclass is included. So of course, you guys always have that Create and Manifest Your Vision, Intention, and Goal Setting workbook. And for those of you who are starting a brand new one, fill out your January information, and that is your goals, right? So fill out your goals so that you've got that there. And then of course, journaling. Create and Manifest Your Vision journal is a great tool, but you can also grab yourself a great notebook like Patty has, and you can do that as well. And then just for your reference, check out drjoedispenza.com. All his books are on there. His meditations are on there. I don't know, honestly, if his meditations are free on there because I've done a lot of his meditations through Gaiam or Gaia TV. So just check it out. But I do know that he's online. He got some podcasts, things like that. So check him out. He is kind of a neat and cool dude. I really like him. And then thank you again. Acknowledge you all for showing up for yourself today. As I said in the beginning of the class, this work isn't easy, but it's worth it, right? There's nothing better than manifesting what you want in your life. And if nothing else, just happiness and peace and contentment. And we all can do it. We just need to focus on it and make it a priority and decide to do what it takes.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Rockin' Wellness Podcast. Make sure to visit my website at www.rjowellness.com, where you can subscribe to the show and check out all the show notes. While you're at it, if you found value in this podcast, if you'd simply tell a friend about it, that would help out too. You may choose to join the R.J.O Wellness community to take advantage of the freebies, courses, and coaching that will take your voyage to the next level, or support this podcast with your monthly membership. Until next time, my friends, keep rocking your wellness.